Welcome everybody back to my channel. I am of course your lovely host Adrian, and this photo today is loosely based off of my lovely bird, my lovely conure bird Ari. I love her. We have a love-hate relationship actually. The funny part is that I had got her as a sort of gift by my partner who was going away for a few weeks for his guard army stuff. And the funny part is she actually loves him a lot more than she loves me. She fights with me all the time. Right here you can see I struggled with this hand a lot. Just could not figure out actually either hands. Hate hands a lot. Took me several tries to do that. Anyway, back to the bird. So, this bird we got about 3 years ago, and she was just a young baby. An older couple had her, and she was super loud and hateful, and constantly screaming all the time. She has actually attacked one of our puppies that we got not long after that, and took a small chunk of his ear out, which I felt so bad about. But he's doing fine, don't worry about it. Yeah, I know that ear was too big and too high, so I lowered it down a little bit. And I sketched out the eyes, and now I know it looks like I started in the middle of a sketch, but actually it took me, I had to redraw this 4 different times. So I sketched out the first time, and then I came back in and drew this. And right now what you're seeing is the 3rd or 4th sketch. I did basically a blotched colored green lining through the whole thing to kind of give me a blurry version of what I was going to do. Then I came back in with a orange and did some of her clothing and things like that, like her boots and stuff like that. And now I'm doing this sketch here, which is more of exactly what she's going to look like with her clothes on and stuff like that. Although I kind of did her arms first, so I know I didn't mess up on any, or mostly mess up on any of the proportions and stuff. The sword here is based kind of more or less off of her feathers, as if you would wet a feather and strung it together, pulled it apart on one end. That's why it's kind of rougher and like a serrated kind of blade and I went back to this hand the 5th time, and that's more or less what I came up with at the end. Still not the best and happiest with this hand, but it was about as good as we're gonna get. And here's where I'm starting to blotch out her clothing to get a closer pirate-esque clothing style. I looked over about 4 different pictures of pirate-styled clothing, and I didn't want anything sexy. I wanted something full-bodied clothing, and nothing that was just going to be in the way. And as funny as it is, actually those boots that you saw were my favorite part of the whole outfit. I loved the idea of the boots that just kind of folded over onto itself and snapped towards the side. I just don't know why, but that was just my most favorite thing of all times. I decided to give her this big old bellowing poofy shirt and pants to kind of give an idea of when she floofs out, which I know is not a real word, but floofs out and gets all angry and puffy. And I thought I'd keep her on an angry state 24/7. And now I'm finally getting into the actual line art part of the drawing. I did her face first. I don't know why, but I always do faces first. This eye took me forever to get a better distance. I enlarged it a little bit to give it more of an angle. Felt like it looked better. And I love these eyebrows. I give a very narrow, like, angry eyebrow for her. And getting through that other eye. And the last eyebrow. This bird is been with me forever. Oh, and I hate this mouth. Kept it in, unfortunately. Still hate it, though. Don't know what I was thinking about doing a open mouth kind of thing. I had kind of wanted to do a lip, but it ends up kind of more looking like an open mouth. And even when I tried to color it in as a lip, it just did not work out. So I just kind of like blot over it and keep it that way. And those banana earrings, I am sad to say that I completely had forgotten about them when I colored them in. Don't know how I managed it, but they're completely forgotten. The banana earrings that I was going to put in on her ear, are basically the food that she eats. I do a fruit pellet kind of food, and she has these banana chunks that are her favorite. And we are getting through towards the end of her clothing. I made it poofier, and I fixed her arm. I don't know if I show it in here earlier, but I fixed her arm to make it longer and fit more for her proportions, because I had realized later on that it was very stubby and short. I think I did that earlier, and it matched it because where her wrist cuff was, it was like all the way up to her shoulder on the arm with the sword showing more. And I love this little sash that I got going on to kind of hold in her clothes and stuff and give her more of a, like, I'm ready to fight attitude. I mostly wanted to make her, I don't want to use the word hateful, but hateful and tough. And I feel like I was able to accomplish a lot of that with the drawing that I got. Well, I hope you guys end up enjoying the rest of this. I don't know really what else to say for most of it. I will come back in a little bit with commenting on the coloring. Here's where we start the coloring. Sorry about that silence I did earlier. Now, in the pictures that you saw, that's my bird Ari right there. I've got a harness on, that's why she's flopped over upside down. She hated that harness. And I'm pulling colors directly off of her feathers to get the colors besides her, the human version of her skin tone. Because she just didn't really have any skin tones, and I really did not want to use that gray-white color. I feel like that would have just been way too ashy for the rest of her bright colors that I got going on in the rest of her clothing and body. I would end up having to mute the entire color palette, which I just didn't think was realistic and possible. I thought it looked a lot more better with this pinky, warm, sun-kissed skin tone I'd given her. She has bright blonde hair, which I now think I should have done more of the green color. At the time, I thought I was going to end up adding more green, and by the time I ended up finishing the rest of the drawing, I realized that it was just mostly yellow, which it still looks really good. It's just not what I end up intending for. I love the sharp black nails I gave her, which is more of the claws that she has that she punctures me with all the time. And they end up turning out really well. Here is some of my shading I did. I used an overlay for the shading and a warm color to kind of help add the rest of it. I don't use overlays often, so it was kind of a experimental time for me. But the shading turned out pretty good, if not a little bit on the dark side, but I don't think it was too terribly bad. I basically just ran over the entire color palette with this overlay to get her a nice shaded area. I was really upset earlier when I found out that I missed doing the black lines on her knees, but I think the shaded version of it actually looks a little bit better. It doesn't look as harsh on her, and I know those eyes look really weird. I'm gonna fix them, I promise. I originally wanted to do black eyes, and so I just blotched in a bunch of colors and kind of just kept ignoring them for the longest time, which I realized I shouldn't have done, but ended up doing it anyway because I just hated the way the black eyes looked, and I needed to get them done eventually. Here's where I'm going back in. I decided to do a green color because I needed to add more green to her, and they turned out really good. They're just nice, pretty dark green eyes, which I did a lot of blending to turn out the way that they did. I'm just getting some extra highlights in there. Overall, this is a pretty fun drawing that I done. My bird was happy with it, and she praised me for it by screeching in my ear where I have to hide in a small room to record this. Here's where I did the hair, and I know it looks like a mess, but I thought this is the best way to get a nice smooth connection to both the green part and the yellow. I blended it with some orange to help do some shading and some extra bit of color to that. I think the orange was a nice touch to the rest of the color. And then I just erased the rest of it. Couldn't even tell it was there. And I'm just shading the rest of the hair to make it look a little bit more seamless. I actually used a gray shading. I think I ended up putting it back on that overlay to do real shading instead of just a mix of the colors. Which I think was better to do it that way. I think I used a little bit of a green in that. I did. I used a little bit of green to help with that shading to kind of tie in the rest of the color palette that I was using. And there's where it basically shows that all of the green is just gone. At the very end of the hair, which is fine, but not ideal. That's basically what she is, and here's me. I honestly, personally hate this background, but at the time I had done a background earlier, and it didn't turn out how I wanted it to, and I went back and forth with a couple other backgrounds, and this is basically the first background again, just redone a little bit differently. And I just blotched out a couple of really quick backgrounds. I didn't want her to be just floating in negative space or in like a solid background or weird 90s shapes, so I had to do something to at least tie in a little bit better of a background. This is the first time I actually did a pretty good sky color on this. I'm typically not great at this skies, but I blotched out the sky pretty quickly and blended everything in. It took me several tries to get the sky into the color I wanted it, which I basically just went back and forth until it blended into a fairly okay state. I wish I would add a little bit of water and actually see colors to it instead of this just her standing on a random mound hill with nothing actually going on. But it's not that bad, actually. Could be worse, could be better. And just did a quick palm tree, which I had to look up a couple of reference pictures on. And we're just coming close to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of this photo. It was a lot of fun doing, and I'm pretty proud of it overall. There's several things I would have changed and several things I would have redone, but overall it wasn't too terribly bad. I hope you guys let me know of any other drawings you would like me to do, or any themes that you want to see. I have a whole idea of everything I'm going to end up doing in upcoming videos, including some small gaming and things like that. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and enjoy